All right, Facebook Live community, Rythmia, the Friday edition, Breathwork edition of Facebook Live. Coming to you live here are Christian Minson. One person has arrived in 17 seconds. Welcome. Show me, come place your name in the box. Let me know you're here. Let me say hi to you. I'm just hanging out. Two wonderful people. 4. Let's see if that goes up to 8 and 16. As you come on in, let yourself be known. Show me, say hi to me in the chat box. I'm here, standing by. It's a partly cloudy day, still plenty warm. Sharon Bird, hello. Sharon, Tim. Hi, Tim. Brenda, coming there at the end of July. Beautiful. I'll be here waiting for you. Tina from Finland, I know. Former guest here. Tim, see you tonight. All right, Tim, that's right. Breathwork's happening tonight. So Tim's here right now. And glad to have you tuning in there. 17:20, just taking it up, just shooting the breeze a little bit. Tina's hello, Christian. Hi, Tina. It's so good to see you. You're pretty regular at this, aren't you? I love to see you on here. Tell me what time it is in Finland. And this is at least 8 hours earlier. So what's that? The morning time, or 8 hours later. Okay, so like 9 o'clock at night, maybe. That would be my guess. 58. All right, 54. We're up there. 57. Let's try to get to 60 today, and then I'll start. Oh, and there we go, 60. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Breathwork edition of Facebook Live here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, where today it's about 85, 90-ish degrees. Let me tell you exactly how much the thing says here. I'm wondering myself. Oops, I've got it on San Diego time, or San Diego temperatures, because I was just there. Oh, 90 degrees. Yep, 90. It is. We just started into the rainy season, which it seems like it's easing in really nicely because it rains a little bit. It's cloudy a little bit, which brings the temperature down somewhat, but then and then it's sunny again. So I really love the rain here because everything is green now. It just takes about a week and a half of rain and everything that was brown turns green. So I'm here. My name is Christian Minson. I am the resident breathwork director here at Rythmia. For those of you who don't know, I am also a certified transformational breath facilitator, senior trainer with the Transformational Breath Foundation for the last 12 years. I've been at this a long time. I was a monk for 10 years before that, and we used the breath and meditation techniques. So I've got about 22 plus years of experience working with the breath on the spiritual, emotional, and even physical levels. I was a track athlete at one point in time, so I was working with the breath to help me get better at my performance there. So today, here at Rythmia, we're talking about the subject breathwork, incredible breathwork stories. I thought I'd just make a lighter one this week. Not one I had to think about, what I wanted to tell you, but really just sharing some of the stories of breathwork. And I think today I'm really going to share my stories. There are so many stories that we could share. As you know, if any of you tune in to About Your Miracle each week, which happens tomorrow, I believe it's 1 o'clock or noon or 1 o'clock California time anyway, where we share each week the stories of somebody who's gone through the Rythmia program. That's both breath work and, of course, plant medicine. And you can just hear amazing, fantastical stories. And a lot of people here have those stories coming directly from breathwork. We had our first breathwork week here at Rythmia a couple weeks ago. It was a big success, and so we're looking forward to doing that again. One's coming up this week, but we're now looking to promote the one the following month in July. I believe it's the third week in July. So if you're turned on by some of these breathwork stories, if you can't do plant medicine because of some medical issue or some physical issue, or you're just not, plant medicine's not your thing, or you're not sure about it yet, breathwork may be just for you. And this is the breathwork week here at Rythmia, where we're practicing the transformational breath in our Rythmia breathwork program. So check that out. Let me just say hi to a few other people. Amanda, my mentor, teaches transformational breath in New York City. So who's your mentor, Amanda? I want to know who. And there's stuff going on out there in New York. Christine, hi. Jennifer, hi. And Tina was telling me it's 10 in Finland, 10 o'clock. So I wasn't that far off. I thought maybe 9. Christine from St. Louis. Excellent. All right. So the breathwork story is really, I thought, there's so many I could give, but I'll give mainly my stories. It's one way to get to know me a little bit better and get to know how breathwork influenced my life and how I came to do this. What kind of experiences I had that led me to doing this. Lisa's saying I got so much out of breathwork when I was here at Rythmia. Amanda says Reverend Patricia Price and Lilydale. I do not know Patricia. So I would like to know her. The transformational breath family is small enough that I know many of the people, but not her. So thanks for sharing that, Amanda. All right, so how did I get into all this? As I mentioned, I was a monk at one time, and probably that's where I first experienced breath work. I had a monk friend. Now he's an ex-monk as well, but he used to be into all the new stuff. He got into ways of exercising and ways of dieting and all sorts of different mind expansion things, that could be experienced in the context of being a monk. So plant medicine and that kind of thing weren't amongst it there. But he got into all this stuff, and he tried this breath work, and he kept telling me, you got to try this stuff, man. You got to try this. So it was, I kept putting it off. And then I started to get these feelings that it was time for me to move on from my monastic life. I've been a monk for 10 years now, and I had dedicated my life as like getting married, saying I'm going to spend the rest of my life in this lifestyle. And but I was getting these feelings. It's time to go. It's time to go. And it was concerning me. It was really making me wonder about this. So I kind of went on retreat, but instead of going on retreat, I went to a breathwork program. And there, for the first time I experienced this breathwork, it really started to help me in a number of ways. First of all, it helped me to get in touch with my emotional being. At that time, I was pretty shut down emotionally. I came from a military family. We didn't express ourselves very well. I was a monk, which, as enlightened as that lifestyle was, we tended not to interact on a deeply emotional level. So that part was really kind of not being expressed for me. So when I started this breath work, the first thing it did was start to bring up emotional energies and make me realize, start to feel at first that I had emotions. Now that might sound strange to some of you all because you know what emotions are and you express them freely, but for somebody, a man, a monk, a military guy, all this, that it was not, all this energy I pretty much had tamped down. So I wasn't really acknowledging what it was. And as it was coming up, I was starting to recognize that it was emotions. The second thing that it really did for me was started to give me a way to start to express those emotions. So it wasn't just that I had them, but now, had them and stuffed them down, but now it gave me a safe container to start to express my emotions. And that felt a little weird, for the by and large, for the first time. But perhaps the most important thing was it gave me a way to integrate that emotional energy, meaning I didn't just express my emotions and be in that energy, but they really didn't move, which is a lot of how we express emotions in our lives these days, where we're caught up in it, but we don't really move that energy along or integrate it, as we like to say. And this really gave me a process that not only brought those emotions to the surface, allowed me to express them, but allowed them to basically come to completion. And these are emotions that I'd been holding on for decades, 10, 20, well, at that time I wasn't over 30 yet, so about 20 years worth of emotions. So that was my first experience, and what it did for me was start to get me in touch with my authentic motivation, what I call my true core motivation. And one of the first things I did with this breath work was to weigh my decision. Should I stay in the monastic order? Should I keep living this style I've been living 10 years, I've been committed to, I've been dedicated to, I thought I was going to devote my life to? Or do I move on? Do I take this chance, stepping into the unknown, life without a job, without a home, without knowing where I was going to go next, what was going to happen? And as I breathed, an amazing thing happened. So I would took one of those options and I just breathed with it, breathed in this technique, not just normal breathing, but breathing in this technique. And I took the option of staying in the order, which I thought logically was probably the best option because it was the most known, is what I dedicated my life to, all that. But as I breathed on this, something interesting happened. I started getting this contractive feeling. Like I felt somewhat suffocated. I felt constricted, like I couldn't move. And I noted that and thought that was interesting. Then I took the other option, to leave, to go into the unknown, somewhere, like I said, no job, no direction, no what it was I going to do next, no home. And yet, as I breathed on this option, I felt this opening, this expansion, the sense of excitement and wonder. And despite the fact that it was kind of an unknown, somewhat fearful venture to go into that, I recognized that the feelings that I was getting were my soul speaking to me about what the step that was most right for me was. So the constriction was saying that that's not the path for you, the path of staying in the ashram. Sorry, I'm seeing myself mirrored, so I can't keep using the right sides. The path of staying was constrictive, and so I was like, I can't, that's not right for me. I don't feel good when I'm in that energy. But this other path of leaving, even though it was scary, even though it was unknown, all these things felt open and expansive. And so that felt right. When I tell you, when I made the decision, when I went back and I told my superiors, I said, listen, I've made the decision. I have to leave this ashram life. It was literally like a weight lifted off my shoulders. If you've heard that expression, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulders. This is the first time I actually experienced that. Literally, I felt like 20 pounds lighter, and I skipped to the phone room, I remember back then, and I started calling everybody that I knew and letting them know that, what my decision was and all this. And I I can honestly say that now it's been 12 years, right, since I left, that I've never looked back. I've never regretted my decision. And that's because I took the time to tune in with that core motivation. And that core motivation is in all of us, but it's like a very quiet voice. It's like a whispering voice. It's your intuition, essentially, whispering to you. And if there's all this noise of daily life going on, you're not going to hear that voice, generally speaking. So what the breath technique did for me, and does for people in general, is amplifies that voice. So I could hear it clearer. I could hear it in the form of that contraction and that expansion. And that voice spoke to me loud and clear. And then, you know, we always have a choice, but I recommend the choice is to listen to that voice. And so that's what I did. And like I said, I have never regretted that decision because I took the time to really tune in. I listened to the voice and I acted on what that voice told me. And that was my inner voice telling me what was best for me. And even though I can say that it hasn't been the easiest path, right? I could definitely say that staying in that ashram environment, that's this side, staying would have been an easier proposition. It was, I knew what I was doing. I was good at it. I had that lifestyle down. But leaving, even though it's been more difficult, has definitely been more rewarding. So that's, you know, that was the story of one of my first times of really experiencing this breath work and how it really helped me to start to make decisions in my life. And it can help you make decisions in your life too. Let's check in. Christine, I appreciate you opening up and sharing this. I have wondered how you made the transition from being a monk. Awesome. Great. So first story resonated at least. Bruce said, so grateful to experience this at Rythmia. Now immensely welcome part of the daily meditation practices. All right. So Bruce experienced this breath work at Rythmia, and now he's got it as part of his daily practices, which is exactly what we want to, you know, what we're promoting here is not only to come here to Rythmia. These Rythmia lives are really to expose you to, you know, the wonders of the program that happen here at Rythmia. But what we teach you here is stuff that you can take back and plug back into your life, especially the breath work. The breath work may be the #1 tool that you can take with you that has the highest return for the investment in time that you practice it. And Sarah is saying, would you recommend somebody to follow on YouTube to start a daily practice? Follow me on YouTube, Sarah. And then friend me on Facebook and tell me what you want to see, and I'll start putting that up on YouTube for you, and we'll go from there. So next story. Let me see. I wrote down a couple of just stories I want to share with you, and one of my most fantastical happened very early on in my breathwork career, and also one of my most mundane. I'll start with that one because it was funny. I went through this breathwork process, and for those of you who've done it, and for those of you who don't, it's this accelerated breathing. It's like a process you're doing we do it for about an hour. In this particular seminar I took, we were doing it for an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours. I can remember just humming along, breathing, and normally when you're doing that, something happens. Like you'll feel tingling in your body, or you'll feel your limbs cramping up, or you'll get hot or cold, or emotions will start to arise, as I just mentioned, or you'll start to feel this spiritual connection or something. At the end of this breath work, I felt absolutely nothing. I mean, it was literally like I felt super normal. It was such an interesting feeling because it was like as if I hadn't even done it at all. I felt so much the same as I did at the start of the breath work. So it's not a great story for people who are wanting fantastical things to happen. But the point here is that your experience can be vastly different, vastly varied, depending on who you are, depending on what you're coming to the table with. And even if you do the breathwork twice or 3 times in a row, your experience is going to be different every time. And sometimes it might be very fantastical and lights and bells and whistles are going off, and other times it might be very, like it feels like nothing's happening. But I can tell you from my experience now after the last 12 years that never is nothing happening. All right. Just by going through this process, we're drawing in abundant amounts of life force energy. And as a result, we are reorganizing, re-energizing our systems. And even if you don't feel anything in the moment, it's paving the way for changes to happen in your life in the days, weeks, and months to come. And so this is also where I tell everybody who comes through these doors, I remind that it's not so much what happens here in this week that is the essence of what your what your experience is, the value of your experience, but it's what happens in the weeks that follow. How does your life change actually? How are you better able to manage your conflicts? How are you able to meet your challenges without banging your head against the wall and stuff like this? This is like where the value of this work really comes forward. Tina's saying, I've already done breathwork daily after Rythmia, some days for even 1.5 hours. Very powerful. Well, that's great, Tina. And for most people, I don't recommend you do it that much right away. But if you're feeling it and you've been taught, like Tina has, coming here and having done it, and you feel good about going that length, then do it. Because that's, ultimately, the great thing about the breath is it's yours. It's your power. It's your life force energy. And as you learn to harness it and work with it, then the sky's the limit as far as what you can do with it. Lauren's coming on the 24th and throwing up already. I'm so excited. Excellent. Yeah, I threw up on my way here to Rythmia myself. That's kind of like the medicine starts working on you before you even get here. As soon as you sign up to come, the medicine starts working on you. So you don't even have to drink it in order to have the effects. But thanks for that. All right, so this supernatural story, this really illustrates the connection that we all share, and how, though we are in separate bodies, how energetically connected we are. So this was in one of my early breathwork sessions, and I was breathing. We breathed lying down on the floor, essentially, and I was breathing next to this other woman. And this was still early on in my breathwork career, so I was still developing that relationship to my emotions, and still wasn't fully emotionally expressive yet. So as we start the session, normally it takes some time for people to get into it, but the woman next to me started crying like 2 minutes into the thing. She just starts bawling, and I'm breathing, and I'm kind of like, well, poor her, she seems to really be going through something, and I feel like I'm pretty stable. I'm going to dedicate my session to her. And I thought in my mind, and I visualized that what I was going to do was, as I was breathing, I would send energy to her and just send her this healing energy so that she could work through whatever was going on for her. All right, so here we were breathing. The first thing I did was start to sync up my breathing to her breathing. So I could hear her breathing, and I was breathing in the same pattern. And so we started chugging along together. And the first thing that happened kind of concerned me. I started to feel this energy tingling in my second chakra, or sexual chakra. And I started getting a little concerned about that at this time. I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? What am I feeling? What am I getting myself into? But something told me to just keep going with it. So I kept breathing with her. We kept going, and the wisdom of that was that that energy leveled out and it started to move into the higher chakras. So I started to, it transformed from my lower chakra, the second chakra, up into the heart chakra. And then I started to feel this love. And I started just giving her this love. With every breath I took, I started transmitting this love to her. And this went on for a little while. And then, you know, it got more fantastical in that my eyes were closed. I didn't open them, but I could sense what felt like an energy ball, like this ball of light above me, 6 feet above me. I could feel the distance it was. I could feel how big it was. You know, it was about the size of my torso, this ball of radiant light. I also got a distinct sense that it was the spiritual master that I was following, Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. If anybody knows who he is, give me some thumbs up and all that. But so this energy of Yogananda shows up, and as much as I start giving her this loving energy, this ball of light starts filling me with even more energy. So I start, you know, just pouring it into her as much as I can, and as much as I do, it just keeps filling me up even faster. So this this triangulation starts to happen. This sort of connected flow is going on, and I'm just feeling, you know, I'm, as much as I'm giving her, I'm receiving. So I'm fully in this loving, intense vibration. And the interesting thing is, now in this work we have what's called body mapping, and so body mapping is this. You know, we work with body parts of the body, and we press like acupressure in order to help release different energies, different emotions that are locked up in there. So if you got tension in some area of your body, it's likely that there's emotional energy locked up in that part. Well, I'm breathing along, and all this is happening, like I'm saying, and I feel somebody like touching my shoulder. Now the shoulder, the first thing I thought is body mapping, but then I thought it through a little bit, and the shoulder's not one of the body map points, right? It's not something that that we work on for whatever reason. Apparently, I guess it doesn't hold any particular emotional energy, or not that we've discovered yet. So, you know, this goes on. I'm just filled with this love, filled with this energy. This points, I'm feeling somebody on this point for a long time, but again, I don't open my eyes. I just like want to stay in this energy. So eventually it comes to an end, and eventually the body mapping point goes away and all this. And it comes to the end of the session, and typically what we do in some of these sessions is we'll share at the end, share our experiences. And this was a relatively small group, so we're going around in a circle and sharing. Well, it comes to me, and I'm like, do I share this? Do I tell everybody what I just experienced? Because what if she didn't feel that, right? I mean, I was so certain that this happened, but what if she didn't feel it? What if it, you know, and then they just think I'm crazy and all that. But I took a breath or two, and I decided that I'd go for it. I decided I'd share it. So I'm explaining what happened. I explained how I decided to dedicate my session to her, that I started feeding her energy, and then I started feeling it. I started feeling the love come. I started feeling the energy pouring into me from this higher source. And all the while that I'm speaking, her eyes are getting wider and wider. And I don't know how in the group we got spaced out a little bit, but a couple more people. Then it came time for her to share, and she just opened up and said, you know, everything that you said, I felt 100%. She said, you know, at one point I could feel the energy coming from you so strongly that I had to actually get up, and I placed my hand on your shoulder just to receive it in its full force. And then my eyes started getting wider and wider. I was like, wow, that is amazing. But the real clincher was, then she looked out at everybody and her eyes started to well up with tears, and she said, you know, but what's really most important here is that I can trust men again. And my heart just went out to her, and I thought to myself, wow, this is what she had been working on. She'd been struggling with relationships with men where you know, they hadn't been the most positive. They'd been duplicitous, you know, these things, and she'd had this real distrust. And in this session, that's what she was crying about. That's what she was working on. And I thought to myself, wow, if I could have any part in this kind of healing of somebody else, I want more of it, you know. And I think that's what really got me on the fast track to becoming a facilitator at that point, was recognizing how powerful this process was, how powerful it was that I experienced right then and there. And that was probably one of the most powerful experiences that I had. Now, I went ahead and wrote this down, and this is what I recommend for anybody who does breath work or does the plant medicine or anything. When you have an experience, go write it down, because your mind is a tricky instrument, and it will tell you weeks later, months later, years later. I mean, this literally happened 12, 13 something years ago. So sometimes I think about it and I'm like, did that really happen? That didn't really happen. It was too crazy, right? Your mind starts going, yeah, you must have dreamed it or something. And fortunately, I have the manuscript, you know, the writings, and I go back and I look, and I'm like, yeah, that did happen. And the more detail you can put down, the better, because you know, sometimes your mind is like, that was too fantastical. There's no way that really happened, but it did. And I'm here to tell you. It's Christine saying, that's awesome, love it. Hey, Michael, what a great story, thanks. I wonder why the screen doesn't play. What does that mean, Joan? Are you not seeing me? Claudia, yes, fantastical indeed. Some kisses, some thumbs up. Frozen on your end. Oh boy, let's see. Let me see if I got internet. So hopefully you guys are all seeing me. I'm getting enough people's comments that seem to be connecting. Oh, that's lovely. Sending you good energy. Hello. Hi, Andy. Lauren, hi. And yeah, so good. I'm getting hearts and likes. Oh, look who's on. Hey, son. Yeah, great to have you. Well, you just missed my most fantastical story, Asen, so you'll have to watch the replay. And all of you can, you know, these Facebook Lives come up and replay again, and you know, they're on the Rythmia site, and then we actually also transfer them to our YouTube site. So the Rythmia YouTube site, you can see all my past Facebook Lives, as well as all of Jerry's I Got My Miracle Facebook Lives. Dr. Jeff does his Facebook Live. Meg, our chef, does hers on Sunday. So I think mine's on Friday, Jerry's on Saturday, Meg is on Sunday, and Dr. Jeff is on Monday or Tuesday. So there's always something going on, and if you missed the live one, you can always go back and watch it recorded. Julia saying, I'm not frozen. Excellent. Good on your side too, Andy. And Christine doesn't have any problems. Good. Well, we're moving on. We're moving on, and next story. In the same retreat, I had another amazing story. Just you know, I was a monk for 10 years, and I had some very interesting connective meditative experiences, but it's like I felt like I had to work for those. And what's amazing about the breath work is it seems to bypass all the work. Now there's a little, you know, it's not quite that easy, but what it will tend to do is give you, it gives you some experiential juice almost straight out of the gates. So this was early on, once again, in my breathwork experience, in the same the same retreat that I was at, and I had this experience of, almost merging with the divine. And why I say that, almost merging. So once again, we're in the breathwork process, having another session, and in this retreat we would do one, maybe 2 sessions a day. I can't remember, but let's just say at least one. And I was in the session and start breathing, and this is how it normally works. You start breathing. Let's say the average session will go something like this. You start breathing, you start feeling physical sensations. So like tingling, or your hands start cramping up, as I was talking about earlier. Weird, twitches or this. My eye would always twitch. I used to get cramps, like these Charlie horses in my thigh at first, and really had to shake those out. And all of that, I've come to learn, it was just stored emotional energy. And as I went through the process, that eventually released. Now I don't get any of that stuff. And sometimes I even miss it. But I know that I don't miss all the feelings that I've let go of. So I was experiencing this physical stuff, and then some emotional things might come up. In this case, though, this day, sometimes it's emotions to work through, so they're maybe not the most pleasant. You might be sad and cry, like that woman I helped, or you might feel angry or frustrated or whatever. This day, my heart opened up, and I started feeling love, and I started breathing, and all of a sudden, it's like my spine lit up. And if you know what chakras are, give me some thumbs up, or all this. Or if you don't know what chakras are, send me a message in the Rythmia chat so I can explain it. But the chakras, 7 energy centers that are in our spine, starting at the base of our spine all the way up to the crown. The top of the head is the 7th chakra, right? And each of these expresses a different life energy. The first one is the energy of groundedness, of physical manifestation. The second is our creativity, our sexuality, all that. The third, our power, to get things done in the world. The fourth is the heart chakra, the love, the connection. Fifth is your expression. Sixth is spiritual insight, and the 7th is that spiritual merging with the soul. So I felt my spine light up, and then each chakra came online, and it's like, for a while, it's like as I breathed, one chakra would light up, then the next one, then the next one, and the next one, next one, then get to the 7th, and it would go back down. It would light up, light up. It's almost like a light show. I just kept feeling the lights of my chakras, coming online, and with that, a harmonizing of each of those chakra energies. I was coming into better resonance with my my physical reality, with my creativity, with my power, all that. And then it started to just go up and down the spine, and it connected with the 7th chakra. And what I remember about this so distinctly was it felt like a trap door. And every time I got to the 7th chakra, it's like I kind of knocked on that trap door. And I just intuitively knew, if that door opened up, my life force was going to leave. It was going to exit my body, and I was just going to, go wherever. I would be here no more. My body would be here, but I'd be gone. And I knew that would be essentially the end of me, the end of this physical me, Christian, as I knew it. I'd be dead, basically. But as I got to that door, I just realized I want to be on that other side more than anything. I could realize that it just felt, I just knew if that door opened up, one, it was like, that was aloha to this plane of existence, but I was ready for it. And I sat at that door for like half the session, and I was just like knocking on that door the whole time, and just filled, all this energy was coming up my spine and meeting me right at that door. It was like, it felt like I could have blown open that door, but it wasn't me who was in charge of opening that door. You know, it was the greater spirit that really was in charge. And I pleaded with him or her or it, whatever it is. And I was like, I'm ready. Let me go. You know, I know that means the end of this life, but you know, I'm ready to go. Fortunately or unfortunately, however we want to look at it, the trap door never opened. And as the session winded down, you know, my energy started to trickle down my spine, and I came back to this physical reality and you know, re-embodied myself. And I was like, it's a little disappointed, actually. I was like, dang. But then I realized, but I'm still here. So I knew that I still had more work to do here, and I'm certainly glad that I've stayed on this planet, and to be able to do not only the work for myself, but the work that I've been doing to help others evolve and get it as well. So that was that story, basically, a real story of spiritual connection. I felt that energy moving, and so I was connected with the energy of my spirit, and I knew that next step was just to merge with my spirit completely, become one, as they say, but that wasn't in my cards that day. All right, so checking in. We got a couple thumbs up on that. Jeff Clark joined. Hey, Jeff, good to see you. A lot of regulars here joining in. Craig from Adelaide, Australia, good to see you. Christine, Dr. Jeff's is on Monday. Okay, thank you, Christine, for reminding me of that. So we have Friday through Monday. We got all of these Facebook Lives. Julia, so happy you didn't go. Listening to you soothes my soul. You've been a great part of my healing journey without you even knowing it. Oh, thank you, Julia. And that's, you know, and that really makes me thankful that I stayed too, right? It gave me an understanding. I wasn't in the place that I am now at that time. You know, my life and my mission to help others was still developing. Of course, I'd been 10 years a monk, so I was really, you know, I'd say that was really my training in a lot of ways, preparing myself, learning the skills, learning techniques, learning how to balance my own energies, so that when it came time to go back to the world, that I was relatively stable and had something to offer people rather than still trying to figure it out myself. Not that I have it all figured out. Let me get it straight right there. But that, you know, that I've got a base foundation that I can draw upon from that experience. And now it's led me out into the world to help people more connectedly. As a monk, I wasn't really connected with people. I was helping on a more energetic level. But now I feel. You know, I see the people I help. I feel the people I help, and they're helping me too. So it's a reciprocal kind of thing. Ann Evans just joined. Hey, Ann, she's a great proponent of breathwork. She's been here at Rythmia a couple times. Mary, hi, Mary. And all right, so we got some more people. Let's see what other stories. I did, you know, so when, once I finally started on the process and I became a monk, after a month, I got out, and literally the trainings to become a facilitator for this work were happening the week I got out. So, you know, as I said, I got out of the ashram. I didn't have a home. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any direction. So naturally, I was like, and I loved this breath work and I wanted to know more about it. So I just went from the ashram straight into that retreat or that seminar. And I got on the fast track to learning to be a facilitator. I worked my way up to senior trainer, as I had mentioned. And then I've been sharing this work all around the world now for the past 12 years. I've been to some pretty amazing places. Moscow, Berlin, Monaco was quite fun. Breathing with some wealthy Russian guy there. That was a crazy time. Bulgaria, interesting place. I've been a couple times and done some seminars there. I've been to Italy. Been to the most, one of my most mission-oriented trips that I've been on is to the Middle East. I did a breath weekend for the first group of Arab men in all of history. So this is huge. This to me felt like I was planting a true seed of peace in a region that, if there's any place that needs some peace and some balance and tranquility, I'd say it's the Middle East, right? There's a lot of turmoil going on there. Now, the women have been at this for some years, about 8 years now. But the men know, and the men and women, it's very segregated culture. It's getting more integrated, and Kuwait is a place where there's sort of both spectrums. But as far as working these workshops, the women could breathe, but not with the men, and the men could breathe, but not with the women. So I was invited out there to do this first group of men ever in the history, probably the history of Arab existence here. And so I had just shy of 20 people in this group. And I tell you, from that experience, I learned so much. The basic thing that I learned was that no matter where we are, no matter what culture we come from, no matter what religion and all that, we're all the same deep down inside. Every one of us is striving to express our unique perspective, our unique gifts and talents, just to be who we are and to express ourselves in our beauty and our full effulgence. And yet, as we're trying to do that, we're tamped down by our culture, by our religion, by our politics, and those things, block us from fully expressing ourselves. And this is the same in the Middle East. It's the same in America. It's the same in China, same in Bulgaria, same in Russia. No matter where you go, it's the same story. We're trying to freely express ourselves, and yet we've got these overlays. And some cultures are a little bit more stifling than others. Some religions are a little bit more stifling. Some politics are a little bit more stifling. But we all have these things going on. And to me, that really, it just made me feel like the world brother and sisterhood. For me, it came together in this big embrace that we really are. So you hear all this hype in the news about Arabs, Muslims, this and that, and how different they are, or how how they're the enemy or whatever you're hearing. It's not true. We're all humans. We're all striving to make our way in life and to express ourselves authentically, and we're just having to do it around all of these roadblocks. And so hopefully you'll take that to heart. And Andy says amen, and I agree with that. It's a huge lesson. Let's see I think this is the last story I want to share. This is how I got to Rythmia. And this is a great story in that a story about planting seeds that you don't even know you're planting for future sprouting in life. So this is a great story because 10 or 12 years ago, I breathed. One of my first clients was this guy named John Mosley. And some of you who've been here know John Mosley. He's the artist who painted this, which is on the walls at Rythmia. Fabulous artist, fabulous guy. So John Mosley was one of my first clients 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And so I introduced him to the breathwork. And he had a few sessions with his girlfriend, and they were going through some stuff at the time, and that helped them out. Fast forward a number of years, we stayed in touch. We were in the same community and all that in San Diego. He eventually was enamored enough with the breath work that he wanted to learn to facilitate himself. So he went through all the trainings and got certified as a facilitator. But still, he's primarily an artist, but he loved to share the breath and his art at the same time. So when Rythmia opened up 2.5 years ago now, John came down to Rythmia and was purveying his art, seeing if he could get his art to be displayed here at Rythmia if they want to pick up any of his pieces, which they have. And at the time, if those of you who have been here know, and those of you who haven't, I will tell you now that Jerry, the owner, built this place based on a conversation he had with the moon. And the moon told him on medicine, basically, that the two shortcuts that we'd be using here at Rythmia were plant medicine and breathing. And at the time, he didn't understand what the breathing part meant. He understood the plant medicine because that's what he was using. But he thought, well, we all breathe, so he must breathe and do plant medicine. But when John came down, he introduced him to this transformational breathwork that I had introduced John to 10 years earlier, right? So John gives Jerry a few sessions, and Jerry lights up. He had more visions on the breathwork, doing the breathwork, than he had on his ayahuasca journeys. So he had the realization, this is it. This is what the medicine meant when it said breathing. So immediately he tried to employ John to do the breathwork part of the program. So John stayed on for a little while, but he was more artist than breath worker and needed to move on, needed to get to his next project and stuff. So we got somebody in our clan, in the Transformational Breath family, to come on down. That was Nicole Rager. Many of you who've been here know Nicole. And she got here September of that year, so 10 months into Rythmia's existence. And she started really plugging away and developing the program and helping Rythmia to really start to form and develop into something that could congeal into a keep saying. Come February of the next year, that was February of 2017, she had a little accident on a motor scooter and bashed up her knee, cut it wide open. Fortunately, didn't need to have surgery, but had to fly back to the United States, get stitches, go through rehab, physical therapy and all that for a number of weeks. So they called John in. He was the only person they knew to sub for Nicole because she was out, but the program was running. They needed a breath worker. So John came down for a couple weeks, but once again, being more artist than breath worker, he didn't want to stay too long. And he was antsy to get out. And somehow, well, you know how, my name popped into his head because I was the one who had introduced him to that breath work 10 years earlier. And he called me up and said, there's this place called Rythmia I'm working at right now. We need somebody to come sub. Nicole's out, for a number of weeks, and I got to get out of here. Can you come down? And come down next week. And my passport had expired and everything. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I gotta, it just, something was compelling me to do it. I had to go expedite my passport. And I tell you, one of the most efficient government organizations there are is the expedited passport office. Man, they are efficient, and it seems like the only place that rewards procrastination. So the sooner your flight is, the sooner you'll get your passport. Amazing. So I got it. I got out here, and I subbed for the next 3 weeks. And I was here in this environment. I was sharing the breath work, and I thought, this is a great place, and I've got my own practice back at home. So I was going to see if Nicole would I asked Jerry basically if when Nicole comes back, if she ever wants to go on vacation or this or that, maybe I could come back and sub for some time. And Jerry said, yeah, let's meet. So when we met together, he said, do you want a job? And I was like, a job meaning like what? He said, come here, work full time. We need somebody here to help support Nicole and to further this breathwork program. And I thought about it. I said, let me think about it. Yes, I want to get here. Actually, it actually was somewhat of a decision I had to make, because my business, my practice was really taking off in a good way back in San Diego. But again, I did that breathing thing, really focused on which direction was the best for me, and the Rythmia direction won out. And I packed my bags and I said I'd come out here. They wanted me out here in June. It took a little bit longer to happen, but finally got out here in November and been here ever since now. And to me, it kind of blows my mind to think here that I'm here in this place that got introduced to this breath work essentially in part because of me 10, 12 years earlier, right? I planted that seed by giving John Mosley that breath session. He carried that seed to Rythmia, and he dropped off that little plant, and then got Nicole to start growing that plant and bring me in. And now I'm here, like, fully nurturing this breathwork program as a result of what I did 10 years ago. So that's a great story, one, to show you sort of the miraculous way life works and brings you to the perfect place. And I do have to say, here at Rythmia, I feel like all the talents that I've been working on for the last probably 20 years are finally, are all being utilized here. Every aspect of what I have to offer in some way is getting used here at this place. And it's both exhausting but fulfilling. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it is a lot of work. But to know that, the lesson here, I'd say, is to do what you want to do. Do what you know is right to do, even if you don't see where that's leading to, because that's a seed you're going to plant. It's going to sprout up again some other time. I've heard stories to the exact opposite too, where somebody did something not so good at some time in their life, and then later on in their life it comes back to bite them. So it works both ways. So I'm telling you to plant that seed of good actions, of things that noble ambitions that you have. Do it even if it doesn't look like it's really going to come to any kind of fruition there in the immediate term, that you never know how it's going to turn out in the end. So with that, let's see, just checking in on some last comments. Andy, Christian, I'm a little late to the talk. Have you discussed, or do you have any instruction video on how to practice your breathing? I would say I do. For anybody that wants to know more about breathing, one, come to Rythmia, and the number's up here, and we put this 1 at the top here because people were starting to call this number, but they're thinking it's a Costa Rican number, which is 560 country code. So don't do that. Do the +1 country code. This is a US number. So if you're in the United States or Canada, I don't think you even need to do +1. You just do the number. If you're anywhere else in the world, use +1, because the number is a United States number. So first of all, come to Rythmia if you want to know about breathwork. Second, if you want to carry on the conversation with me beyond this, friend me on Facebook. My name is the letter R, Christian Minson. R. Christian Minson on Facebook. Friend me, but when you friend me, give me a little message. Even if we're not friends yet, send me a message that says, I saw you on Rythmia Live. I want to stay in touch with you, and ask any questions you have there, like you have here, Andy, and we can continue on the conversation. If you don't send me that message, I can't guarantee you that I'll get to friending you anytime soon. So I've got a whole list of backlog people who haven't sent me messages, and one by one I have to see whether they're people that I, have had experience with before, or just some random person that, people, some fake profile or whatever. All right. So Karen says, hi, Christian. I love your breath work. The first time I tried it, I had a great meditation session. Beautiful. Angela Sparks joined. Hi, Angela. One of the first people I met here at Rythmia. She came out in that February 2017, February, March, she was out here. So welcome. Jose, we are all one. I think referring to one of my stories earlier. Andy, thank you. Thank you back. So that really brings me to the end here. I hope you've enjoyed these stories. These have all pretty much been my personal stories. So it's a way to, one, give you a sense of what breathwork can do, two, get to know me a little bit better, how I kind of got into breathwork, how I got here to Rythmia, how breathwork got here to Rythmia, and how I'm even partially responsible for that, and now I'm here, and all that other great stuff. So keep on breathing well, take some deep breaths, take some connected breaths, and friend me on Facebook. Let's continue the conversation, and of course, I'll be here next week on Rythmia Live. I believe the topic next week is healing ancestral patterns, so that'll be a fun one. That'll be a fun topic. Don't miss Jerry tomorrow, Meg on Sunday, and Dr. Jeff on Monday. With that, it's our Christian Minson signing out. Namaste until next week, or until you come to Rythmia. Over and out.